Hi, I'm Sian, one of the news editors at Manx Radio. Now, what do you think about government's decision to spend funds approved for work on the horse tramways elsewhere? The chair of the Public Accounts Committee has described it as a slap in the face to Tynwald. It's after the annual report from the committee criticised the Council of Ministers' decision to descope the horse trams without seeking a vote in the island's parliament. It's one of two recommendations the committee will be bringing to Tynwald later in the year. I spoke to Juan Watterson about the committee's report.
Well, obviously, we take a lot more assurance from the audited accounts, but in terms of trying to look at specific areas of government, specific projects, it's really hard without that sort of information, without that granular detail, to know how much we're spending on things such as student awards or highways or staffing. Without that sort of level of granular information, it's really hard to then sort of start to look at areas of concern, to start to look for areas where we might think that there could be better value for money. So, and also trying to sort of match up the performance data with the financial data, because the government's audited accounts are just so high level, and they're just at not quite at that useful level in terms of getting under the skin of different departments and different service levels.
So is this essentially then hindering the committee's work, not having access to this?
Yeah, and there used to be a really great tool. It's called the Light Blue Book. It had pretty much sort of division by division within government and line by line in terms of how much things were bringing in, how much things were costing, and it was a really useful tool. Unfortunately, Treasury stopped producing that in 2021, and we've had nothing like it since, and so we're not getting anything now to fill that gap.
Now, you did ask the Treasury Minister why this information wasn't being released, and he said essentially it's all to do with how much officer time it takes up. Is that a good enough reason?
Well, I think it just makes life a bit harder for public scrutiny and Public Accounts Committee scrutiny of government's finances. I mean, we can ask on a line-by-line basis, but the committee is very firmly of the view that there should be a document produced, even if that's the output of the accounting system at the end of the year, just so we can get a feel for changes, where the money's going, and just some of that sort of basic accountancy, sniffing around to see what's going well and what's not going not so well, so we can continue our task of trying to save the taxpayer some money.
You did mention as well the audited figures a few moments ago. How much realistically can you learn from unaudited figures? Well,
actually, if government systems are good enough, and they generally are, then you can take quite a lot of store by the unaudited figures. If you've got good controls, good systems around making sure that they're accurate, then that is actually something that's quite useful to us. Obviously, the audited accounts are the main event, and they're the things you can put a real reliance on, and they include all sorts of other things that aren't in that sort of granular detail. But actually, you do get an awful lot from those unaudited accounts, those balances of how much are being spent at, say, different divisions of government.
Now, the other recommendation comes off the back of government's decision to descope the Douglas horse trams, and this is essentially calling for any sort of situation like this for Tynwald to have a vote on it rather than for it to be a Comin decision. In the reports, it describes the fact that this decision was taken by Comin as reflecting poorly on the department and Comin. Why is that?
Well, I think if the government comes to Tynwald to ask for a sum of money for a project, and that money is voted, and especially with the controversy that there was around the horse trams and the special vote that was had for the extra money for that, when government then goes and decides that money should be spent somewhere else and not on what Tynwald has actually voted for it to go on, that does reflect poorly on government. That's not how good financial management should work and how good governance should work. If government needed more money to complete the project, again, that's something it should have to come back to Tynwald for. But equally, if it's going to descope things and just decide that it doesn't suit anymore to not do something that Tynwald has asked it to do, again, I think Tynwald should have an active say in that. If government can just ignore what Tynwald wants and spend the money the way it wants to do it, that really does undermine the democratic legitimacy of what it's trying to do, and it's a bit of a slap in the face to Tynwald. So it's really important that when Tynwald votes money for something, that's what the money gets spent on, and they're able to demonstrate that money is spent economically, efficiently and effectively.
Now, in terms of the report published this week and its recommendations, what happens next with that?
So that will be laid before October Tynwald. If government get a bit of time to debate that, then we'll be in a couple of months. That will come before Tynwald, and we'll see what Tynwald make of the recommendations that the Public Accounts Committee has put forward.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Little Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.